Not my. Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. The city clerk will call the roll.
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Cub Scout Pack 325, and remain standing for the retreat of the colors and then for the invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What will we do without him?
Next meeting you'll find out.
Please join me in the invocation. Lord God, at this Christmas season, we come to you in thankful hearts for the many blessings bestowed upon our community. We ask for your wisdom in the coming year, for your protection over our community and those who serve it. In your name we pray. Amen. Please be seated. Let me begin with our presentations. Let me invite Eddie Marquez from the Southern California Edison Company to come to the podium, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, esteemed staff, council. Thank you very much for having us. Eddie Marquez, Southern California Edison. I'm here today to present a check in the amount of $43,178. The real check has already been presented to the city. This is for the city's efforts in taking part in the Savings by Design program for the Oasis Senior Center. You as a city earned incentives by exceeding Title 24 standards. You increased the building's overall efficiency, not only at the time of the building being built, but for posterity as well. You saved 141,423 kilowatt hours during this time. It's estimated to use 25.6% less energy over the life of the building. I've got my colleague Holly Merrihew here. She's the account manager for the city, working with Edison, the liaison for the city, and she's going to tell us some examples of the actions that were taken.
Mayor, Council, thank you so much. Just want to say that we're really pleased that the city did participate in Savings by Design. You're scheduled actually to participate again with the building of the new Civic Center, so we're looking forward to helping you with that opportunity. But some of the actions that the city did take in the construction was adding high-efficiency lighting to the building, looking at high-performance HVAC units, also window glazing were some of the actions the city took to achieve the levels. So again, thank you from Southern California Edison for participating in Savings by Design, and we look forward to the success of the next Civic Center building project. Thank you.
Thank you. Lower the check.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have a plaque for you as well.
And we have a plaque.
Just for the building. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank the Edison Company for this recognition, and also the city staff and our architects who worked so hard to make the Oasis the example for the future that it really is for providing senior services. Thank you again. David Sider or Greg Schwenk, I don't see you in the audience yet. Okay, then we will hold that for a few more moments. Well, now, the time has come to honor a... People are adjusting their television sets all over the city. The time has come to honor a friend, not only of those of us on the City Council, but for everyone in the city of Newport Beach. I'm not going to say that it's we're closing an era. I'm only going to say we're turning the page in the service of Don Webb to the city of Newport Beach. For more than 40 years, he has been an integral part of making Newport Beach a better place to live for each and every citizen who lives here. So what I'm going to do is, and we're going to, we have some special guests in the audience who are going to make some presentations as well. But I'm going to begin just to set some context by presenting this resolution to Don. It's the only one I have to use my glasses on to read because I had to get so much on it. So here we go. Whereas Don Webb has served the people of the city of Newport Beach well during his 8 years as a member of the Newport Beach City Council, which included 1 year of service as mayor and 1 year of service as mayor pro tem. And whereas Don Webb served as mayor during the city's centennial celebration in 2006, he represented the city's Rose Parade float by riding proudly on the wettest parade in recent history and will be forever known as the Centennial Mayor. And whereas Don Webb has bettered the city of Newport Beach through his service on numerous boards and commissions. During the past 8 years, he served on the Finance, City Hall Building, Coastal Bay and Water Quality, Facilities, Long Range Financing, Marina Park, and the Mariners Joint Use Library Committees. He has also served as a member of the Board of Directors for the Transportation Corridor Agency and the Orange County Sanitation District. And whereas Don Webb actually began serving the community 4 decades ago when he joined the City of Newport Beach staff in 1968 as a civil engineer for the Public Works Department. In 1981, he was promoted to city engineer, and in 1994, he was promoted to Public Works Director and served until his retirement in 2001. Whereas as Public Works Director, Don Webb was responsible for key city infrastructure projects, such as the replacement of the historic Arches Interchange, the widening of Coast Highway from MacArthur to the Santa Ana River, the Groundwater Development Project, the Pelican Wall, innovative sidewalk bike trails, triple left turns, and numerous projects that improve the quality of life for our community. And whereas Don Webb is a licensed professional engineer in California, past president of the City Engineers Association of Orange County, and a life member of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Whereas Don Webb has been a resident of Newport Beach for 45 years, has been a member of the Balboa Yacht Club for 40 years, and continues to be active in the community as an Eagle Scout coordinator for the Orange County Council of the Boy Scouts of America. And whereas Don Webb has never been a slave to fashion, preferring Hawaiian shirts, comfortable footwear, and festive seasonal attire, along with his personal motto, everything is always more fun while wearing a hat. And whereas Don Webb, a.k.a. Walking Don, has walked every street within the city 5 times, an estimated 500-plus miles, and whereas Don Webb has had the support and encouragement of his devoted wife, Jan, their wonderful children, Don III and Cameron, daughters-in-law, Paige and Kelly, and grandchildren, Ella, Lauren, Zachary, and Molly. Now, therefore, I, Keith Curry, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire Newport Beach City Council, hereby recognize and congratulate Don Webb for all of his hard work and dedication to the City of Newport Beach. Thank you, sir. But wait, there's more. It gives me great pleasure to introduce a great friend of the City of Newport Beach, someone who has worked with Don through the years, our County Supervisor, John Moorlach, for the purposes of a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, it's an honor to be in your home tonight. I think Mayor Curry, you said it best in your invocation, that this is a community. So it's just great to have a great relationship with all of you, including Steve. No, just thank you very much. Ed, Steve, Mike, Keith, Don, Nancy, Gus, and Leslie. It's just an honor to be with you tonight. I think it's great to be able to go to swearing-ins. I will be going to Mesa Consolidated Water District next to do that, but it's nice tonight to do a swearing out.
This isn't Costa Mesa.
I'm sorry, Steve. I just want to say, Don, you've had a great beard. You've got a great beard. We're just so proud of you in our little Hirsuteness clan. I'm gonna miss your beard. You've got great hats. This is so cool. And you've got great rain spooners.
Thank you.
Even Thanksgiving, like 2 or 3 Thanksgiving rain spooners. I mean, how does a guy keep up? So if you could do me one small favor, if you can get some small baby clip pens, and then attach it to the rain spooner tag in the back of the shirt and just put my name there, so the family will know what to do.
We'll arrange that.
I think we're the same size. Mayor Curry's already pretty much said everything in his proclamation, so I won't reread it. But the county will give you a grant for a new room so you can hang all of these things. But we do have a homeless program, so you may have to accept some guests from time to time if that will work. But I'm honored to give you this plaque and want to thank you for your 8 years of service and just the joy you've been to your community by just being yourself. We love you and we're going to miss you.
This row of cameras, too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So is this the family?
This is the family.
Okay, you know the deal now.
Okay,
I get the rain spoon.
Well, it all depends. Some of my smaller ones might have to stay in the family.
I could pick on you a little bit. Thanks, Don.
Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, John.
With the city. I appreciate it.
Thanks. It's been great working with you.
Next, I'd like to recognize the city manager, Dave Kiff, for some gifts and presentation. Dave is wearing the official hat given by Don to Homer Bludow, the prior city manager. It's not clear what Homer did to upset Don, but nonetheless, Mr. Kiff.
And this gift is actually going back to Don. It's one of those gifts that transfers, so it's part of the city's official gift. The city's official gift, however, is right here. And Don knows the story of this clock better than I do, but there are 3 of them made. And they were made by a gentleman named George Milliken. And it could be argued that they are priceless in terms of value. So in that sense, it's never ours or mine to give. So it is being transferred on loan to the Webb family for use in the Webb household for as long as the Webb household would like it. And there's a sticker on the back that says that. But it goes with great affection to you, Don, and for all of the service to the city as a city staff member, as a leader in public works, and then as a council member. And I think I speak for all 800 plus of us when we say you've been an admiration for each of us, because my lasting remembrance of Don will always be that not having the announcer call him the Gorton's Fisherman at the at the Rose Parade, but that whenever you deal with Don, whether it's a disagreement and even a strong disagreement, it's always done nicely. And Don always would have a little twinkle in his eye and a smile, even when he firmly believes something, and his arm goes like this, and about keeping the sidewalks on Avocado, but in the end he's still pleasant about it. And again, my lasting legacy in thinking of Don will be not of infrastructure, but of someone who can be a leader but can also be nice about it. So with that, Don, we entrust to you the third clock. So you might want to tell a little bit about it.
When we had a sister city exchange and began the program with Antibes, we're looking for appropriate gifts, and also this was a time when George was a very creative individual, and I think he has had 40 to 45 years of service with the city, and most of it in the sign shop. And he created or began to create some of our park signs using sandblasting, and he created this masterpiece of the city seal, which is a recreation of the area. And it's something that he put together 3 of them. One of them was given to Bob Wynn when he retired as a city manager. The other one is in Antibes. And so this is the third one, which I will carefully take care of and return. And as far as the hat's concerned, Homer, at his first, it was his first week on the job, and we had an employee recognition banquet. And I was public works director at the time, and he just looked too formal and stiff, and found out that he was also a graduate of the University of Arizona, and their mascot is Wildcats. And so I gave him a cat in the hat so that to go along with him being a Wildcat. That's the story of that hat.
Don, some of the people that have served with you were not able to be with us tonight. Senator Tom Harmon sends a certificate from the California State Senate recognizing your 8 years of service to the community as a member of the Newport Beach City Council. And so on behalf of Senator Harmon, I'm pleased to present this to you.
Thank you.
And Congressman John Campbell, who is hopefully cutting our taxes as we speak, was unable to be here. But he is also, on behalf of the United States Congress, provided this certificate recognizing your service as a member of the City Council as well.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Before I open the floor here to some of my colleagues for their comments, let me just say how privileged I have been to serve with you so far in my nearly 5 years on the City Council. Your leadership, the kindness and the thoughtfulness that you bring to the job, the ability to travel with you on our sister city trips has really been inspiring and helpful to all of us. And the city really has benefited so much from your knowledge and your encyclopedic knowledge of why we did things a certain way back when, before anybody was around, is irreplaceable. And I know that if we start messing with it, we'll see you down at that microphone telling us about it. So, Don, thank you for all you've done. Thank you, Keith. Councilmember Gardner.
Don is an engineer, and I'm not. And that was something he constantly reminded me of, particularly when we disagreed. And because he was always very sure that he was right. But he did it in such, as Dave said, in a nice way. I was wrong-headed in my position, but he never questioned the motive behind it. He always accepted that I was acting, wrong-headed as I was, in what I thought was the interest of the city. And when you have that kind of agreement as far as the basic motives, then your disagreements really don't matter. And it was just a pleasure. It's been a pleasure with the whole council. I mean, I think, of the time we've had very few disagreements. But engineers tend to be, they have their lines straight and their angles acute and that sort of thing. And English majors tend to be a little more this way. But despite that, we agreed on more things than we disagreed. And what I really appreciated, of course, with my father's background was your appreciation of the history of the city. And we're losing a lot of institutional knowledge when you step down.
Councilmember Daigle.
The the most vivid image that I have of Don is in that Rose Bowl float with a hat, similar to what Steve has on.
See, I wore the hat.
You wore the hat.
I wore the hat on
Okay.
the float.
And he looked like a
He
ship
lent it to me.
captain with that centennial float, and it was on national TV, so a lot of people saw that. And I remember too being considered for an appointment, and Don said, "So what do you think about trails?" And my mind instantly went to Back Bay Trails, and we talked about that a little bit. And Don has done so much for transportation in this community, whether it's automobiles or bicyclists, and I think that's one of his great legacies, all the trails. Duffy's, if it moves on wheels, then, or moves somehow, then Don's had something to do with helping to get through our city. So thanks not only for your service on council, but for really building this community. It was really tremendous.
Mr. Hinn.
Nancy, did you say Don has cute angles?
Cute.
Oh, cute. Oh, you have one cute angle. Is that what it is? One cute angle? Okay.
I think she said he had cute ankles.
Oh.
Wasn't that it?
Jan, maybe you can clarify that later. I guess I'd have to say, expanding on Dave's comments, that I would call you a perfect gentleman. You have been that all through the time that I have associated with you, and it's much appreciated in the clinches and in the pressures and the disagreements to have that attitude so consistently and with all the rest of us, and I really appreciate that. The other two things that I appreciate so much are your encyclopedic knowledge of this city. It's just unbelievable, and your contributions to the maintenance of the history of our city, which I think are legion as well. I do recall one time we were looking at the plans for Marina Park, and you sat down and in about 10 seconds figured out a whole solution to what to do with the tennis courts just by looking at it. And not only that, had it measured out with your thumbnail, and it fit just perfect. And so your skill as an engineer and in helping to plan has also been so much appreciated. So, Don, thanks so much for all the good times and support. Thanks.
Mr. Rosansky.
Sure. I've got, I guess, two probably most vivid memories of Don. One goes with the hat, which Leslie alluded to. I mean, Don and I got to sail on, did we call it the SS Newport or something? Is that what it said? SS Newport. It actually did sail.
Sailing through a century.
Well, we sailed through a century on the SS Newport down Colorado Boulevard, and it had to be one of the wettest parades ever. Thank God Don lent me this hat, and I managed to stay dry. But it was probably one of the best times I've ever had, and I got to share it with Don as the captain of the ship. I guess I was your first mate on that voyage. And the other vivid memory I have of Don actually was before I was even on council. I was a Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commissioner, and I was new on the commission, and we were deciding what to do with Castaways Park, and should it have grass or should it be native plants or this or that. And we found out about some native sedge, right? Sedge grass, yeah. And so I think Don called me up, or we were talking about it, and he said, well, we're going to go out to El Monte and take a look at some of this stuff. And I said, okay, I got a couple hours. I could drive up to El Monte. Well, 10 hours later, after driving El Monte, then we drove to Malibu, because the sedge grass in El Monte was only about this big, and they had a whole, half acre of it or something out in Malibu. And we decided we're going to drive out to Malibu and see this through all kinds of traffic, whatever. We had great pastrami sandwiches, I recall, on the way back somewhere in West Los Angeles. But that sedge grass is still growing very well up in Castaways to this date. So, Don, I also want to thank you for all your support over the years, and I promise to protect your retirement medical benefit for the next 2 years that I'm on City Council. Thank you.
Mr. Selich.
Well, Don, it really has been a lot of fun serving on the City Council with you. You've been a constant source of entertainment for me with your outfits and hats, and it's really been a lot of fun just with all the ribbing that's gone back and forth, and it's been very enjoyable. But more than that, I really have learned to respect your integrity, your commitment, and your love for this city over the years that I've been on the City Council serving with you. We haven't always agreed on things, but I've never questioned your motivations or where you were coming from on anything. And, you've been a source of inspiration to me from time to time, because a lot of times just knowing how you feel about things, I'd sit back and when I'm looking at a decision here and there, just thinking how you would approach the solution and what criteria you would use in arriving at the decision. So I've appreciated the ability to serve with you on the council. You are known to be a stubborn man. You probably don't remember this, but I first ran into you about 25 years ago, or maybe even more now. You weren't even the city engineer. I forget what you were, something in Public Works.
Senior civil.
Senior civil. And the city had just paved the street in front of my house, did the slurry seal, and somebody came through, either the city or the sand district, and cut a big trench in front of my house and ruined all that pretty paving. So I called you up and talked to you, and you argued with me for about a half hour on why that street shouldn't be repaved. Every excuse I heard of, the rain's going to wash the oil out, the irrigation's going to streak the street up. We must have argued for about 20 minutes over the whole thing, and then I just figured, okay, another bureaucrat, so I hung the phone up and expected nothing. 2 days later, someone was out there paving that street, so you saw that it was the right thing to do, and you went ahead and did it, even though you argued with me. And I still appreciate that to this day.
Thank you. Mr. Webb, would you like to make some comments?
Oh, this is terrible. Seems like a lot of what I might have said has already been said, but I guess I need to ask, does this mean I get a minute for each year I've served? That would be 42 minutes. I might even be longer than Todd Ridgway. Well, first, I really would like to start off by thanking the citizens of Newport for electing me to this office, because I know it's, when I first decided to run, I was a retired city employee, and there was discussions about, well, gee, he can't fairly look at things, and I felt that I did have some qualities that I could use on the city council to help out. And a lot of times people would give me a call and say, I got this particular problem, and at least for the first 4 years, I still could remember the names of the people in the various different departments and refer, and it took a long time for the city manager to train me to call him rather than call the department head or the department individual that could actually do this. But I finally learned. And but I think that, or at least I like to hope, that people appreciated some of the knowledge that I had that I could pass on related to the inner workings of the city and help make things flow a little bit more smoothly. But really, the last 8 years, as well as all the time I was with the city, the person that made sure I did everything right and that helped me most was my wife, Jan. And she always encouraged me, and usually when I get dressed for meetings, she'd shake her head no. And I didn't listen and came on anyway. My son, Don, and Cameron are here also, and they and their families have been a great to have their support. Friends Joyce Denigan and Martha McClarty also have followed. Joyce's husband was one of the first people I met when I came to work for the Public Works Department. He was the field engineer, and the two of us, I vaguely remember that I was told by the secretary at the time, watch out for that Dunnigan guy. He's really hard to get along with. But I don't know. I guess maybe it's because both of us were hard to get along with. I never had any problem. He was a piece of cake. The city staff is just the best ever. I know that the council is relatively demanding. Particularly, it seems like we get more and more demanding, and we're never shy about asking for more information
And the staff has always been good about responding, and particularly under, well, I'd like to recognize Dave Kiff and before him Homer Bludow as the city managers. The two of them really have done a stalwart job in keeping the city council informed and giving us the information we needed to do to make our decisions. So I think that that's been a really good thing, that we've had good, strong city managers. The city attorneys that we've had and the city clerks also have been the positions that the city council appoints, and we've had really great ones. I know that as I look back, I retired 10 years ago in July of 2001, and there's Dave Kiff is actually the only department head, if you don't count Steve Badum, who was hired just as I left, that's still around when I was here. And I know that new faces and come along with new ideas and new ways of doing things, and I think the city's going to benefit from that. I really do feel that it has been time for a change. I know we've talked a lot about the things that we've done. I keep getting asked, what was it like in 1968 when I started to work for the city? And I know Nancy will remember. She's got all of this tucked away. But I'd like to just mention a couple of things. Well, it's a little more than a couple, but our population was roughly 45,000, which is about half of what we have today. The hills above Corona del Mar were all empty. Nothing was built there. You had Newport Center, Fashion Island, that opened up 2 years earlier, and there weren't any high-rises there yet. Well, actually, you had the Rhodes Medical Office Building, but I didn't really consider that as a high-rise. As you kind of work up Big Canyon and the port streets were just beginning to start construction. The salt works was still producing salt. San Diego Creek levees weren't in. There was about 10 48-inch pipes underneath MacArthur Boulevard at the time, and every time we would get a rain, the water would overtop MacArthur and flood a half-mile up road and down road, and all the traffic had to shift down to Jamboree or north to the Santa Ana Freeway. The airport area, Collins Radio was there. You had Philco Ford, Ford Aeronutronics, I guess it's called later on, was there. You go to if you were rich enough to be able to buy an airline ticket, you could go to the Santa Ana Airport, which was right at the corner of MacArthur and Campus, and the parking lot was right there, and a little tiny old building, and maybe 3 or 4 gates. You could climb up on the roof. I mean, there were stairs up to the roof to where you could watch the planes take off and land. You could even walk out onto the runway if you wanted to. None of this security stuff. Linda Isle was a sand dune. There wasn't anything there but just a pile of sand. Newport Crest and Villa Balboa weren't there. I remember when Villa Balboa's first building was built, and the first time I sailed down the bay, and there was this huge French mansion up on the hillside that was the clubhouse for Villa Balboa, and I can remember the consternation of the city that this development is ruining our community. It's changing the entire atmosphere. Of course, this was before any of the Hogue expansions occurred. We had 2 elementary schools, Bayview and Corona del Mar Elementary School, were both in operation back then. The beach erosion was really huge. It was starting to almost take houses out. And it was the Corps of Engineers was designing the rock jetties at that time. They started construction about 1.5 years after I started to work. Believe it or not, the city had a freeway agreement already executed in place to extend the Corona del Mar Freeway down MacArthur Boulevard to Coast Highway. And they were negotiating an agreement for the Coastal Freeway. Caltrans was already acquiring right-of-way along the bluff, along Cliff Drive. What is now our Theater Arts Center was the Lutheran Church. I always remembered as the Praise Be the Lord Church. But that was something that Caltrans bought, and the Lutheran Church relocated up to 16th Street. We had the agreements for the 55 extension, which there was a toss-up by whether the freeway would come down Superior and terminate or come straight down Newport Boulevard. And wipe out most of the houses that are above where the arches is. So as I look back, there was a lot to be done. I like to think that somebody had a crystal ball at that time and knew that the city was going to expand and double, and they needed a really good engineer to handle the road projects. And that's where I came in, and they hired me in May 13th, 1968. We've already mentioned in the resolution a lot of the projects that I'm really proud of. From a financial standpoint, I think the biggest coup that we had was the Arches Interchange project, which was about $22 to $24 million, and we were able to get that built with only $2 million of city money. And so I think that's a relatively good investment from our standpoint. The groundwater development project, where just as I took over the utilities department, or utilities function, it came to me, and we started really working to get that done. That's drilling 4 wells in Fountain Valley and constructing a pipeline connection down to our yard on 16th Street, and then the pump station necessary to push it across the city. That has allowed the city to have a second source of water besides the MWD water, so that we can be relatively self-sufficient as long as the groundwater basin is there, which is really great. Parks. I know Steve had worked with Bonita Canyon Sports Park, but that one, Bonita Creek Park, Castaways, Bob Henry, all were ones that it was really wonderful to work on. As I retired in 2001, we took a trip, came back, and it became apparent that the City Council really needed to have a good engineer to continue to help them steer their course. And so I decided to run for council, and lo and behold, another engineer, a guy named Alan Beek, decided he was going to do it too. And so that was my competition for Norma Glover's seat. And luckily the voters decided that they wanted a civil engineer rather than one of those other kinds of engineers, and you got stuck with me. My first term had a number of issues that are challenges that we had to work through. Marina Park is one of them that you're particularly interested in, but you may not remember this, but first thing on the billet was, should we have a hotel or a park at Marina Park? So that was quite a challenge for us to work through. We had, in addition to that, we were working on the general plan and trying to figure out what was necessary to get that approved. We had a library that we wanted to create a joint use with the school. We were able to get library grant funds. So those are something, plus little thing of 4 city council members resigned during that 4-year period. And we had to handle that problem. So that I look at it, the Crean Mariners Library was constructed and opened in 2006. Wonderful facility. It allows the students to walk from Mariners School over into the library and have a secure area. The Marina Park has now been designed with a guest marina and park facilities. The hotel has now gone away. General plan was approved by the voters in 2006. And we just had a wonderful time going through and interviews. Seems like every 9 months we were interviewing a new candidate for council member. So we had first Steve Rosansky, second Leslie, third Ed, and lastly Keith Curry. And we must have done a relatively good job because all of them were elected when the next election came up. So I think that is something that very few council members will ever have the opportunity to do. Probably the highlight of my career has already been mentioned is being the mayor during our centennial. And as Steve so aptly describes it, being on the Sailing Through the Century float, we were really the most appropriate float in that parade because it was pouring down rain. We had our slickers on and we're having a great time. We opened that event with Let's Do Lunch over at the Dunes with the Beach Boys, which what better way to start something in a beach community like Newport. We closed a year later with synchronized fireworks off the end of each pier, and Dick Dale in the background. I can't remember who the person at the Newport Pier was because I wasn't up there. I was listening to Dick. But
Don't lean on me, guy.
yeah. Okay, but he wasn't in my era, yeah, I guess you might say. But then came after that was over, and it came up that Nancy has had this feeling, and so has Leslie, and I believe Ed has too, of being able to run unopposed for re-election. That was great for the second term. We started in the second term, and we've seemed like I attended at least 1,000 meetings, and Ed Selich kept doing this to me and get me appointed to these general plan implementation committees, local coastal plan committees, zoning code committees, this, that, and other thing. I mean, we had stacks of things that we had to read. And I sure hope that they're right, because I'm not going to be here to read them and catch any technical errors if they aren't. I'm not coming back to do that. Many hours over the last 8 years have been spent debating, defining, planning, designing, discussing, cussing, and voting on a new city hall. Whew. But we are now, I like to say hooray. The design is done. The grading is almost completed. The parking structure is under construction. Plans are completed. Bids are being received Thursday. And we should see start of construction early in probably February. So I think that the city, it's been my pleasure to really work on that process, and I think that the city deserves a new city hall, and we're going to have a wonderful one. And really, in 1968, I could never have thought that I'd have the opportunity to spend 8 years on the council and be the Centennial Mayor. And I got to hand something out to the council members. Don't open it until I tell you to. It's passed down. There's I'm sorry I don't have one for everybody in the audience, but I keep being referred to as former mayor, and I want you to take a look at the picture here. It says Don Webb, Centennial Mayor forever. There will never be another one, and that's bicentennial. That's right. So just remember that. I'm not a former mayor, but that's just a reminder. You can probably crumple it up and throw it away when you want to, but at least I've made an effort to make sure that you don't forget. Really, serving with the city council, each council member has had a slightly different approach to solving problems, and all of the problems that we have are quite unique and different. Each of us has a different background, and we all seem to come to our conclusions in a different way, but I think we all make good ones. And even when we don't all agree on things, we can take a step back and say, okay, I appreciate where you're coming from, and I respect that. And I think that's what's really been great about the council. And I don't see him here tonight, but Rush Hill, I think, will make a really great replacement. I guess one of the things that I got to caution you on a little bit. And Nancy's already alluded to this, but just remember that when Rush gets this architect's dreamy look on his face, remind him to be practical and think like an engineer. And here's some guidelines that you might want to remember. Engineers are faultless and accurate. and never, but never, question the engineer's judgment. So I know that you won't have one on the council to kick around anymore, but thank you for supporting me for 42 years, and I've enjoyed it.
Well, there'll never be another one like him. Mr. Seidler, are you in the audience? Okay, please come forward. We are exceptionally honored tonight to have in our presence David Seidler. David is the screenwriter for the movie The King's Speech. Pamela and I saw that movie Sunday, and it is a fabulous movie. This is going to be an Oscar contender. It's the Newport Beach Film Festival is doing a special presentation this evening here in town, and we are honored to have you with us tonight. And I'd like to read a proclamation to you. Whereas the United States and Great Britain have had for over a century a special and lasting relationship that has strengthened and celebrated our two peoples and cultures, and whereas His Majesty King George VI overcame immense personal challenges to serve his nation as a unifying figure during the turbulent times of World War II, and whereas the filmmakers of The King's Speech have masterfully crafted a truly inspiring, entertaining, and powerful film about King George VI, and whereas, in its quest to bring Southern California the best in classic and contemporary filmmaking, the Orange County Film Society and the Newport Beach Film Festival present the Orange County premiere of The King's Speech and celebrate the filmmaking achievements of director Tom Hooper, screenwriter David Seidler, and the acting talents of Colin Firth, Jeffrey Rush, and Helena Bonham Carter. And whereas the Orange County Film Society and the Newport Beach Film Festival and the City of Newport Beach proudly welcome award-winning screenwriter David Seidler to the historic Regency Lido Theater for a special screening and discussion of The King's Speech on Tuesday, December 14th. And whereas December 14th is also the celebration of the 115th anniversary of the birth of His Majesty King George VI, now therefore I, Keith Curry, Mayor of the City of Newport Beach, on behalf of the entire Newport Beach City Council, hereby proclaim December 14, 2010 as the King's Speech Day in the City of Newport Beach.
Does this mean we're required to use the King's English for the meeting tonight?
Only if you can use it with the proper accent.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and Santa Claus. I'd like to accept this on behalf of the entire crew that made the film, Tom Hooper, my director, who really honored the collaborative process, and I was extremely fortunate to have one of the finest casts that Britain has ever assembled, Jeffrey Rush, Australian, not English, but Jeffrey, who actually made it happen by very generously attaching himself early on, no money exchanged hands, no contract. He just said, count me in. And that really got the ball rolling. And Colin Firth, who is probably the nicest human being I've ever met, which seems very unfair, that he could be that talented, that intelligent, that good-looking, and nice, too. And Helena Bonham Carter, who is my new love, and Tim Burton, watch your back. So thank you very much. I am extremely honored, and I accept this on behalf of everyone involved in the King's Speech. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It really is an extraordinary film, and those are wonderful performances, and what a great script, and what a great piece of history is displayed there for all to see and understand for all time. It was really a marvelous film. Thank you. And
I tried to be a good boy this time.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if you see the movie, you'll realize that we, in fact, can use the King's English here. We just can't use all of it. Okay. City Council announcements. Madam City Clerk.
Notice to the public, the city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the council. Speakers must limit comments to 5 minutes on agenda items. The council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is time for council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on our future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Thank you. Mr. Selich.
I have none this evening.
Mr. Rosansky.
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hand.
And none for me.
Councilmember Daigle.
Sure. As Councilman Webb was talking about some of our issues with Caltrans, we have been able to secure some projects for our rights-of-way and work with the Corps on some funding. And I appreciate some of our residents' frustrations with the eelgrass issues. And I know now with the changing of some of the legislature, if the city manager can explore some possibilities to maybe bring on a consultant that can kind of help us get our plan through. So I would ask that we sort of take a look at that.
Councilmember Gardner.
As I mentioned, the Harbor Commission and the Planning Commission met, and a suggestion, which actually came from the Planning Commission, was that as there is a vacancy in the General Plan Committee, Update Committee, that a Harbor Commissioner be appointed to that in place of a Planning Commissioner. So I just like, there'll be a letter from the Harbor Commission, sorry, I keep going back and forth with him, from the Harbor Commission making that request, but I wanted to alert those council members who are on that committee that this will be coming.
Thank you. Mr. Webb.
I've said enough tonight. I'd just like to say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. And I have no items. The next item is the consent calendar.
All matters listed under consent calendar, items 1 through 5, and supplemental item 8, are considered by the council to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. The city council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the council votes on the motion unless members of the council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Members of the public who wish to discuss a consent calendar item should come forward to the lectern upon invitation by the mayor and state their name and item number. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium.
Thank you. Does any member of the council have any item to pull from the consent calendar? Councilmember Daigle.
No items to pull, but I appreciate the excellent report on the steps the city's taking on number 6 for the fortifying our city for any sea level rise. And I definitely want to keep appraised of any changes the state of California with our global warming rules and all those kinds of things that might be coming our way. So I appreciate in advance being notified and educated on those issues.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner.
Yeah, also on number 6, the Coastal Coalition of Cities is working on that issue right now. They had a conference call today, but for some reason I couldn't get through. I would like us to be also looking at our low-lying areas and be sure that our building code is taking into consideration the future and whether our foundations and things like that, we may need to make changes. And would also refer staff to the East Coast and the barrier islands and areas like that, which have had this going on for years and have had to deal with it. So there may be some ideas there as well.
Thank you. Mr. Webb. None. Mr. Selich.
I have none.
Mr. Rosansky.
None, thank you.
Mr. Hen. And none for me. Now I'm going to pull item 4 just to make a couple of points. Does staff have any items to pull?
No, sir.
Does anybody in the audience have any item on the consent calendar they'd like to pull? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Most certainly yes, Mr. Mayor. I hereby move approval of the consent calendar, items 1 through 6, and supplemental item 8, except item number 4.
Second.
Motion second. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. I pulled item number 4 because I just want to, this is the agreement with the city's miscellaneous bargaining units, and I just want to say a word about the great partnership and the sacrifices that our employees have made to help continue to keep our city strong and financially secure going forward. The agreement that we are approving tonight shifts will shift over a 3-year phasing period $1.4 million of employee pension costs directly from the paychecks of our employees at the cost of it otherwise have been borne by the city and by the city's taxpayers. It sets up a new retirement tier of 2 at 60 for all of the new hires in our miscellaneous units. It also goes to a formula of calculating your pension for the highest 36 months as opposed to the highest year, which avoids the pension spiking issue that many people have read about. The effect on our employees is between 2010 and 2011 is a net reduction in take-home pay of negative 4.4%, and by 2012, even assuming a raise kicks in, a net reduction of 8.8%. These are very significant real sacrifices to people who are feeding their families and who are working for our city. And people who suggest that we are not taking steps to reduce spending in the city and only raising revenues need to consider the contribution that our employees have stepped up to make. And I believe it's important for us as a council to recognize those sacrifices and the partnership that we've had with our employees in crafting this agreement, and I will move approval.
Second.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We're now on public comments.
Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Would anyone like to speak on a matter not on the agenda? Please come forward. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments. Oral reports from City Council on committee activities. Mr. Selich.
I have none this evening.
Mr. Rosansky.
None, thank you.
Mr. Henn.
And none.
Councilmember Daigle.
I would just note that the new STREL procedure, the new takeoff procedure, is going to be published on January 13th. So sometime after the planes are all able to load the software, we'll see if they hopefully are going to fly down the center of the Bay.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner.
Nothing.
Mr. Webb.
For a small consulting fee, I'll lend out my verticulometer to evaluate their accuracy in going down the bay.
Perfect. We'll take you up on that.
And I have none. Okay, we're now on item 7, second reading on the mooring transfers. This is only relative to the transfers, not the fee aspect of that. I don't believe there's a staff report. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this
Mr.
matter?
Mayor?
Yes.
I need to recuse myself on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on the transfer aspect of the mooring transfer item, please come forward. 3 minutes. Please state your name, please. You'll have 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Brian Newton. Ending transferability imposes near 100% tax on the amount paid to acquire a permit, and yet no revenue passes to the city. There is no requirement to eliminate permit transfers. The grand jury recommended that the profit taking be addressed by means of regulations and procedures. It did not instruct the council to eliminate the transfer process. Also, it has not been established that a gift of funds occurs when a mooring permit is transferred. The language in the ordinance voted on November 23rd says the value associated with a permit may be inappropriate. As explained by the city attorney, there is no case law to support the view that a permit transfer would be deemed a gift of public funds. What profit taking that may have occurred is insignificant compared to the financial harm that will be realized by permit holders with this ordinance. We paid for a permit because we needed a place for our boat and we needed to choose the location. The existing transfer process provided that public benefit, and value could have been returned to the public by imposing a reasonable fee on transfers as the original transfer document contained. Wait lists don't work. We heard several examples on that subject in previous meetings. If the motivation is, quote, to lower the barrier for entry so that greater public access is achieved, increasing fees to a level twice that of San Diego, yet without the services provided by San Diego, will not achieve that. Finally, by eliminating documented partnerships from those that hold mooring permits, you eliminate public access to those that can only afford a boat by going into a partnership, for example, young families or those on fixed incomes. The experience of several California coastal communities that have tried to limit or prevent transferability of moorings or slips was described to the Council on November 23rd. The experience of these coastal communities has been that it is not possible to prevent or limit transfers, and that such rules have not resulted in an improved wait list. Council should use this experience as guidance. There are other ways to control profit-taking and return value to the public. To conclude, there is no need to eliminate the transfer of mooring permits. Improved regulation for transfers is appropriate. Improved regulation. This decision to end the decades-long practice will cause far greater financial harm than the profit-taking you seek to eliminate. This is not solving a problem. Rather, this will create far greater problems which will have negative knock-on effects. One more sentence, please. I would also like to point out that the red line version on which the Council voted on November 23rd is materially different from the version put forward today. It therefore cannot be considered a second reading of the November 23rd ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt, do you have a thought about that comment?
I'm surprised he said so. I don't know of any material differences between the two. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, perhaps while this lady is speaking, you can chat with the gentleman and find out what we're talking about here and make sure we're fine on this issue. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Newton. On July 27th, the Council voted in favor of a resolution to create an ad hoc committee to provide guidance for the city manager for a review of harbor charges and fees. Quote, because this process has been and would continue to be controversial. 2 points on this. Controversial subjects should involve public discussions. Discussions should not take place behind closed doors, particularly when 3 council members are on the committee, as this can swing the vote. The public proceedings have been very civilized despite large numbers of people that came to the November meetings to share their well-informed and considered views. Second, it's not clear to me the ad hoc committee was authorized to review and make recommendations for mooring permit transfers. The purpose of the committee was to address fees and charges, not permit transfers. The use of an ad hoc committee in this manner seems unwarranted. Perhaps the 3 councilors on the committee should have recused themselves, as they were involved in the preparation and recommendation of the ordinance. The debate and vote on the ordinance should be left to the councilors that were not part of that committee. My concern is it seems the ad hoc committee developed a strong bias against the transfer of permits, evidenced in part by the declaration of several councilors and city staff that the transfer of permits constituted a black market and that prior regimes had failed to act. This bias seems to have led the committee to discuss and design outside the public arena the ordinance to ultimately eliminate such transfers and to vigorously defend their collective position on this matter. It was very clear in the meetings on November 9th and 23rd the public finds this ordinance, along with the mooring fee increases, unwarranted, unfair, and many will be hurt financially. Before a vote takes place, I would appreciate an answer to the following questions. Why were 3 councilors appointed to the ad hoc committee? How and when was the committee authorized to investigate the issue of transfer of mooring permits with the remit to propose the ordinance voted on November 23rd? The ordinance concerning transferability should be set aside for real consideration of the relevant facts, including the experience of other coastal communities. The reasons given and policies created for eliminating the transfer of permits are not well-founded and will cause financial harm. The increase in discriminatory charges to mooring permittees should also be deferred until a comprehensive plan for usage fees covering all Tidelands users is developed, debated, and approved by the public as well as the council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other speakers who'd like to speak on this matter? Please come forward. Okay. Don't be shy. Yes, sir.
My name's Mark Seitz. I've been a resident of Newport Beach for 35 years, and I helped create this document. I was asked to spend 2-3 years of my time on it, and to have it gutted in 1 week is not conducive to getting citizens to come and help you. And that sincere effort was put into this. And it was taken apart just so that somebody could satisfy their own agenda. So when you folks ask for other citizens to participate, we know now that it's just for show. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers wishing to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public testimony. Mr. Hunt, would you like to respond to the issues that were raised earlier?
Yes, I would, but I frankly don't have enough information to respond. I could say that the ordinance that's before you, is, in my knowledge, is exactly the one that was presented to you on the 23rd. It's the signed copy of what was presented to you on the 23rd, in which you signed. I've made no changes in that ordinance other than what was considered by you on the 23rd. And the gentleman said he would share with me later what he said, but did not share any words that were changed with respect to this ordinance. So, frankly, I have to say that based upon my information, this ordinance is accurate and ready for second reading.
Thank you.
I believe that's what I said, is that you will send me an email.
Duly noted, sir. Thank you. Is there a motion or?
Well, I think there was another question raised by the second speaker while you were out, David, and to the effect that it was somehow untoward that perhaps that there were 3 council members on the ad hoc committee that helped formulate a recommendation that was then considered by the entire council, including those 3 council members. Is there anything, are you aware of anything that is untoward about that way to proceed on an issue like this?
I am not. That's consistent with the state law, the Brown Act, your charter, and your ordinances, and frankly is utilized in many different cities throughout the state in order to evaluate potential policy recommendations. It was consistent with the law.
I would point out that we did have quite a lot of opportunity for public input along the way. It wasn't as if all of this was decided without benefit of public input. There was a second question raised, and that had to do with whether or not the authorization for the creation of the ad hoc committee included purview to decide about mooring transfers. The implication being that the ad hoc committee can only really consider fee increases. I realize this is catching you a little blind at this point, but could you comment on that, please?
I would say that mooring transfers were an issue that was brought forward as a result of discussing the issues related to mooring fees. It was originally brought forward and addressed by the Mooring Association in the context of fees. It's appropriate for the committee to develop a recommendation for the council. While it wasn't originally called out for in its particular scope of services, I would say it's easily within the city's prerogative to make a recommendation to council. Ultimately, it was the council's determination to whether to vote for the ordinance as amended, and we just acted, and you acted and provided direction based upon the council's actions.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Move the item.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
With council members Gardner and Daigle voting no and council member Webb abstaining, the motion carries.
Okay, next action. Is there a motion for any reconsideration from any prior action? All right, seeing none, we're going to stand in recess until 7 p.m. Hey, Don? I'm going to reconvene tonight's meeting of the City Council. We were in closed session. Mr. City Attorney, is there a closed session report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council met in closed session to address the things that are listed on the open session agenda, and there's no reportable action taken.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the certification of the general municipal election results of November 2010. Madam City Clerk, is there a report on this item, or? Nope, okay. Is there a motion to
I would like to move, as my last motion, to approve the certification of these results.
Is there a second? Does any member of the audience wish to discuss this matter? All right, seeing none, please vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. May I now invite the recently re-elected members of the City Council and Mr. Hill to join the City Clerk for the oath of office down here in the well, please.
Okay, if you can just face me. Please raise your right hand. I, please state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Yeah, he's on this side. I will now recognize the City Clerk for the purposes of conducting the election for the office of Mayor.
This is the time for the election of the mayor. All members of the City Council are on an equal basis to nominate and elect. The same procedure is also followed for selection of the Mayor Pro Tem. To clarify, nominations do not require a second. They are debatable, cannot be amended or reconsidered, and a majority vote is required to elect. The motion to close nominations does require a second. It is not debatable or can be reconsidered and requires a two-thirds vote. If there is more than one nomination, the voting will be done by paper ballot and the results read at the conclusion of the balloting. If there is only one nomination, the voting will be done using the electronic voting equipment. Nominations are now open. Do I hear any nominations?
I'll nominate Mike Henn.
I second that.
No
I
need
also
for a
move to
second.
close the, oh, that's right. I move to close the nominations.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Motion to close
Move to close.
Okay, and the second was there. Okay. Nominations are now closed for the office of mayor. Please vote. Congratulations, Councilmember Hand. You are the new mayor for 2010-11.
So I presume we'll move on to the nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and you proceed over those, sir.
I'd like to exercise mayoral prerogative here and nominate Nancy Gardner for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll move nominations be closed.
Is there a second? Thank you. Nominations are now closed for Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote. Congratulations, Councilmember Gardner. You are the new Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam City Clerk.
Now is the time for the seating arrangements for City Council. They are done by seniority. So with the mayor and mayor pro tem already seated, the next senior council member is Councilmember Rosansky.
I'll be retaining my seat.
Next would be Councilmember Daigle.
I enjoy it here. I'll stay.
Now Councilmember Selich.
I'll move, and I've had it with Rosansky.
He can't keep up. It's all right. I like to break in the new guys. Ed's really just tired of running the lights. That's the problem. And he never did it very well. That's right, Nancy. You're exactly right.
Now it's Councilmember Curry.
Well, there's not a lot of options left. I think I'll stay here.
And you will now be running the lights, Councilmember Hill.
I expected the light duty.
But I do have a button.
And with the conclusion of our annual Chinese fire drill, I have the very, very great pleasure of presenting the mayoral gavel plaque to the outgoing mayor of Newport Beach, Keith Curry. Keith, where are you? There you are. You've set a great example for me to aspire to as mayor. I appreciate that you have hewn this path for me, and I intend to continue as well as possible in your example. And so it's my very great pleasure to give you this plaque with the great gratitude of our citizens.
Thank you very much.
Keith, I presume you have something to say?
Well, that's usually the case. First of all, let me thank you, Mike, for those kind words, and to my council colleagues for the opportunity to serve as your mayor during the course of 2010, and to everyone in the city. It has been one of the great honors of my life to be mayor at Newport Beach in 2010. It's truly a great job. Let me also begin by recognizing my wife, who's in the audience, who I think has enjoyed this job as much as I have, Pamela, and my daughter, Julia, and my son-in-law, Tony Capitelli, who are also here and who have been great support during the course of the year. I would also like to recognize and thank Don Webb, who has been a mentor during my entire time on the City Council and whose leadership we're going to miss in the years ahead. You know, when we gathered at the Newport Coast Community Center in January, we set out 6 sort of general topical goals, but we set out 46 specific action items. And I am very proud to say that with the report today on the sea level, we have done something at least to accomplish all 46 of those goals. And I'd like to share with you some of the things that this City Council has done this year. And it really is, it's not one person, it's the entire City Council. And broader than that, it's our great city manager, Dave Kiff, probably the single best decision that we as a council made in naming Dave as city manager. And also a very, very dedicated and hard-working city staff that contributed to these accomplishments, and for which you as residents and taxpayers can be very, very proud tonight. We started to address the fiscal issues that face our city just like they face every other city in California. The first thing we did in January was to adopt a 15-point fiscal sustainability plan that set forth the policies that we were going to follow to make sure that Newport Beach stayed a financially secure city. That fiscal sustainability plan was cited in our rating reports when we received our AAA ratings later in the year, and it really provided the roadmap for getting us to where we are today. We were looking at this time last year at a budget deficit of $8 million. We closed that and turned it into a $3 million surplus. We reduced the 2010-11 budget by $18 million compared to last year's budget. We reduced the city workforce by approximately 35 net positions. We increased public safety employee pension contributions from $0 to $946,000, and with tonight's action, we increased the miscellaneous employee pension contributions by $1.4 million annually when it's fully phased in. We ended the fiscal year with $82 million of restricted and unrestricted reserves. That's the most reserves we have ever had in the 104-year history of our city. And because of that, we achieved AAA underlying bond ratings from all 3 rating agencies, one of only 5 cities in California to do that, and we achieved the highest possible COP ratings on the recently concluded financing. Working with a very distinguished group of citizens and strong support from the City Attorney's Office, we passed Measure V, Comprehensive City Charter Reform, the first time in more than 30 years that we reformed the city charter, and the first real big update since the 1950s when the charter was first put together. In terms of investments for public infrastructure that are going to serve across many generations and serve our community well, we opened the Oasis Senior Center, something everybody in town I think now is very proud of. We broke ground on the new Civic Center, which includes the park, the parking, the library expansion, and the Disaster Preparedness Center along with City Hall. We successfully financed our Civic Center project. We refunded our library debt to reduce our debt service cost by $120,000 annually. We completed the dredging of the Back Bay. That'll last another 20 years. We secured the initial funding for dredging of the Lower Bay, and we were the first council since the 1940s to take steps to remediate the Rhine Channel. We conducted our second citizen satisfaction survey, and although we thought it was going to be difficult to improve upon the 88% satisfaction that we saw in 2007, at 92%, we in fact did just that. And more importantly, our city employees, who really deserve the credit for this, in 47 of 74 measurements, we improved perceptions of quality of service. Didn't fall back in a single category with our residents. We sustained our group home ordinance through significant legal challenges. We initiated a policy of 24-hour responses to resident complaints, and I had a chance to go out and, on 8 different occasions to have meet the mayor sessions in all of our council districts throughout the community to talk to residents and improve the communication with the city. On the airport, we expanded the Corridor Cities Coalition to include Laguna Beach, Irvine, and Villa Park. We commissioned the first ever study on air quality impacts of the airport. We opposed the expansion of the footprint of the airport with the Legacy Air Project. And we are now moving forward to position ourselves to renegotiate and extend the settlement agreement. If you go, and one of the accomplishments that I'm proudest of that this council worked on is if you drive now the corner of PCH and Dover, instead of being the most blighted part of the city, there are vibrant stores and shops opening up this entire part of our community and showing that government can get something done. We expanded our traffic signal synchronization program to the peninsula, West Newport and Newport Center. We completed the EIR in Sunset Ridge Park and Marina Park. We established a bicycle safety committee, and we put the Sharrows on Bayside Drive to begin our bicycle safety program. So all in all, these are accomplishments that I'm very, very proud of. that are collective accomplishments. They're the accomplishments of the entire City Council through the course of this year. But those are only the City Council accomplishments. You know, our community is very vibrant and strong, and our business community has also worked to expand in the community and to meet these economic challenges as well. We saw a $100 million expansion of Fashion Island. We saw a new Nordstrom store. The Pelican Hill Resort is beginning to hit its stride as a major generator of hotel tax. We have a new Tesla dealership. Our Convention Bureau brought the BCS press headquarters to Newport Beach, along with the teams and fan bases for Texas and Alabama last year that significantly enhanced local revenues. And our film festival had the highest attendance in its history. All of these help to keep Newport Beach the strong and economically leading place that it is. It has been truly a great honor to be mayor, to serve with such dedicated and knowledgeable and effective colleagues as I serve with on this City Council. And I would just close with one thing that I'm most proud of. It was mentioned in the paper on Friday. I think we've improved, I hope we've improved, the tone of the meetings and the tone of respect in dealing with the community. And I see that happening both ways, both with the people who come to the microphone, and I hope it's perceived that we're trying to be more respectful to those who do come. So thank you for the opportunity to serve. And Mike, I know you're going to do an outstanding job in pushing the city forward even more in the year ahead.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you for your service. I must be older than Keith, so I'll put some reading glasses on here. I have a few remarks. I'm honored as my first official act to reiterate my thanks and appreciation for Keith Curry's exceptionally able leadership of council. He has represented our city in a truly outstanding fashion, both in public and behind the scenes, as his recounting of the many accomplishments of the city during that time amply demonstrates. But beyond that, I especially appreciate Keith's integrity and thoughtfulness in planning and organizing council's agendas so effectively. He has worked extremely well with staff and each council member, as well as the council as a whole, in navigating the treacherous waters of the past year. Keith, I am truly grateful to you that the city is in such excellent shape as the gavel is handed to me. And I intend to carry forward as seamlessly as possible with the momentum you have established. Thanks also to the rest of council, including Don Webb, with whom I have served without interruption for the past 4 years. It is as hard a working, dedicated, and committed group of volunteers as I can imagine. Thanks to each of you for your highest expression of confidence in me by electing me mayor. Rush, congratulations again to you on your election victory. I'm thrilled you're joining us and have no doubt your contributions will at least match the rest of us over time. You're joining a great team. Nancy, congratulations to you too for your cliffhanger of an election victory. We shared that in common, running unopposed, although I'm still trying to figure out how you got more votes than me, and I may have to have a phone call with the FPPC, Mr. City Attorney, about that. Most especially, though, I want to express my deepest appreciation to my best friend, the love of my life, my partner for life, my wife, Lynn. Thank you for your support and your understanding over the many late nights and weekends that have been necessary to balance my work, council, and our family. I can't do this without you. And of course, to our family, our daughter Kirsten and husband Jeff Ingham, and our 3 grandchildren, including Andrew, our oldest grandchild, who did the color ceremonies this afternoon as a part of Cub Scout Pack 325 and who is here tonight. Our daughter Emily, who will soon grace us with our 4th grandchild. You don't have to stand up, Em. And her husband Jim Berry. And our daughter Lindsay, all of whom are here tonight and all of whom have supported me in my council meanderings starting over 4 years ago when they campaigned door to door to help me win my first election. Strictly objectively speaking, I have the best family in the whole world, and they mean the world to me. Becoming mayor of this great city is a high honor for which I've worked hard to achieve and for which I am extremely grateful. But with that high honor comes high responsibility. Therefore, I pledge to represent our city to the best of my ability over the coming year and to maintain the lofty standards established by the long list of my mayoral predecessors. Keith did a great job of enumerating the city's impressive achievements over the past year. Now it's my job to look forward to the challenges of the coming year. While 1 year is a very short window of time to progress an agenda, I feel very fortunate by virtue of our extremely dedicated and capable city staff and the skill and continuity of this council as a whole. Much can be accomplished. A few months ago, as we were touring the city's Big Canyon Reservoir, Nancy Gardner commented on the tremendous foresight shown by the previous city councils in building projects like that for the benefit of future generations of our city's residents. Big Canyon is a great example. Many of our residents don't even know it's there, yet it provides enough potable water storage to satisfy a full week of water needs for our entire city in the event of a sudden interruption of our water supply. Few, if any, other Southern California cities have such a tremendous backstop of water. The council had made that purely elective decision to put that in place in 1959, displayed tremendous foresight, a gift, if you will, to many future generations of our residents. There are other examples of these great generational accomplishments in the 100-plus year history of Newport Beach, such as the dredging of Newport Bay in 1933. Don, you'll check me on my facts here. The purchase of city-owned water wells in Fountain Valley in 1996. The annexation of Newport Coast in 2001. The successful fight in 1971 to stop the construction of a coastal freeway that would have destroyed the character of our city forever. And, of course, not the least, the John Wayne Airport Settlement Agreement, executed in 1985. These and many others over the last 100 years taken together define our city as we know it today. The high property values, quality of life, citizen satisfaction we enjoy today are in large measure derived from these fundamental accomplishments that we mostly take for granted. Keith noted a number of the generational legacies that this council has already accomplished. As we look forward to organizing our agenda for 2011, I want to be mindful of our responsibility to set aside time and resources for this council to complete its contribution to our rich legacy of generational gifts to this great city. I believe we continue to be uniquely well-positioned for that task. This council has served together as a unit for the past 4 years, and with the benefit of Rush Hill as an able replacement for Don Webb, we will serve together for at least another 2 years. We have a willingness to take on the toughest of issues. We know how to take advantage of each other's strengths as we attack our problems, and we know how to constructively resolve our differences to enact solutions. Just as important, we are supported by a new generation of exceptionally capable and innovative staff leadership with long tenures, we hope, ahead of them. This overall continuity of leadership, in my view, positions us as perhaps no other council that has preceded us to assure that our share of Newport's generational legacy is fulfilled. With this in mind, as council looks forward to its annual priority setting session in the new year, I see the agenda falling into 2 broad categories. For lack of better descriptors, I refer to them as managing the city day-to-day and generational planning. As we identify our priorities, I want to make sure that we've allocated adequate resources to support both categories. The category of managing the city day-to-day includes the regular drumbeat of running the city over the course of the year, in effect, taking care of business. These are tasks and goals that are mainly staff organized and driven, with council support and approval as required. Included would be things such as setting a balanced budget, making sure we live within our budget, maintaining high standards of public safety, police, fire, lifeguards, assuring essential services like water, wastewater, streetlights, roads, and the like are maintained at the highest level of performance and reliability, and executing the city's established master plan for facilities replacement. Each of these categories has important goals and objectives for the coming year. I see staff setting the priorities and allocating the resources for these, and then going about their jobs to get them accomplished. with minimal need of council involvement beyond the necessary review and approvals. The city's management team is implementing the concepts contained in the well-known book Good to Great to take an already well-functioning set of city services to the next level. Then there's the broad category of generational planning. Examples include extending the key provisions of the John Wayne Settlement Agreement, completing the fundamental restructuring of employee pension benefits and costs, revising our fundamental strategy for the provision of city services in recognition of the fact that the business of government has changed and our government must change to reflect that. Revitalizing the deteriorating and underserved areas of our city, areas such as Balboa Village, Lido Marina Village, Mariners Mile, and perhaps others. And establishing a master plan for the maintenance, improvement, and environmental protection of our harbor, beaches, and upper bay, including the assurance of sufficient revenue and the allocation of that revenue amongst the various plan objectives. These are examples of the major policy and strategy that council should lead the effort on, supported by staff. Each of the generational planning efforts noted above will require years to fully execute. There are many generational accomplishments that council could choose to work on. Council's task at the priority session in the new year will be to select the short list of those that are necessary and timely to work on now. Then my goal as mayor will be to assure to the best of my ability that council organizes and structures its agenda to assure that we set aside the time, the energy, and the focus to complete the generational planning that's necessary over the coming year, especially as we get buffeted, as we always do, by unforeseen problems and the incessant demands of day-to-day management of the city. Apart from task-oriented goals, I would also like my tenure as mayor to focus on a couple of other things along the way. One will be to promote the continued advancement of council and the city as a whole in technological implementation. Toward that end, I intend to lead by example. Beginning in January, and perhaps with the help of my daughter Lindsay, I will implement a mayor's Facebook page. I expect to use this, and believe me, I'm a technological dinosaur, so this will be a great leap for me. I expect to use this page to post updates on issues of interest to our citizens and solicit their input. This will include postings following regular council meetings and other events of interest. I usually can't get to sleep at night after council meetings, and this will give me a good thing to do while I'm still awake. We also need to take steps toward going paperless. Therefore, I will work with staff to pioneer the implementation of an iPad solution for council meeting agendas and materials in replacement of the clunky, paper-wasting, huge ring binders that we currently use. My wife is laughing at me already. I'm going to do this.
Can I still?
Yes, you can. We're going to work on an iPad solution that you can doodle on, Steve. I would like to challenge any other interested members of council to join me as a guinea pig in this initiative. Lastly, I want to continue to emphasize council's demonstration for respect for others in all we do. I'm glad Keith mentioned that. I know he has worked on this issue. This thought extends to how we deal with each other as council members, how we respond to citizens at council meetings and other forums, even to how we show that we're listening to people. Respect for all of our citizens and your busy lives extends to our desire to continue to find ways to improve our communications with our citizens, and further emphasis on transparent, open, and citizen-involved deliberation on major issues affecting our city. I think we already do a pretty good job, like Keith. Keith's initiative of 24-hour response time on all citizen inquiries is a good example. But as with everything, we can do even better. I will be looking for specific ways to manifest this goal as we move forward through the year. I'll close with one more thought. While I'm extremely grateful to be the beneficiary of all the great work of previous mayors and councils, I'm equally grateful for the chance to work with such a great city staff. This council has had the unprecedented opportunity to appoint new leaders for all three posts reporting to it, namely the city manager, Dave Kiff, city attorney, David Hunt, city clerk, Leilani Brown. In addition to that, within the last year or so, Dave Kiff has appointed a new police chief, a new interim fire chief, a new assistant city manager, new administrative services director, a new community services director, among others. These new faces join an extremely able list of continuing department directors to form what I believe is the finest city staff imaginable. Together, they have the skill, energy, and enthusiasm to move from a good to a great city government. And I pledge the support and encouragement of the mayor in helping them to do just that over the coming year. So there you have it. That's my view of how I should approach my term as mayor. And I truly look forward with gratitude and excitement to the next year of service to our great city. And with that, we're not quite done with speeches, I suppose. Nancy, do you have any speeches for us?
I would just like to salute Keith. He came into the position of mayor with a vision. It was his brainchild to do the fiscal sustainability plan, which was so critical in our success for this year, so thank you for that. I would salute my husband, but I asked him if he wanted to come with me at 5 and sit here for a couple of hours listening to us, or did he want to meet me at the party? Tough decision, but so he's not here we can't clap for him. I look forward to the next 4 years of working with this council, with staff, with our residents, our businesses, in maintaining and improving what we've already done. So thank you.
Rush, you're the other person that was elected on this dais. Would you care to make any comments? I'm sorry, Leslie as well. Leslie?
I had a race, and I was really humbled by the great turnout of the community in this election, and really appreciate the confidence that the voters and the residents placed in me. And it was very gratifying that they recognized and appreciated the work that I've done and the council's done over the years. And although I received majority support from each of the districts, I ran particularly strong in neighborhoods surrounding the Back Bay and the Lower Bay or the harbor. And so I very much appreciate people recognizing the emphasis that I've had on quiet skies and our waters, and making sure that they are navigable and environmentally attractive. And that also being active in the fiscal issues of our city on our Finance Committee during the past several years. And certainly I have unique responsibilities to be attentive to the residents of my district. So I was particularly pleased by the strong support that they showed me. They have always been a big priority for me to take very good care of them. And as far as the harbor goes, I appreciate any goodwill ambassadors, Ed Selich and Steve Bromberg. Steve was somebody who is now a Superior Court judge, but really helped me early on. And while there are many people who supported my election, I wanted to single out a few iconic leaders whose reputation and influence lifted my candidacy. Supervisor John Moorlach, who's been fighting a courageous battle for pension reform. Gene Watt, who's highly respected over a broad area and a former member of our council. Gene is committed. Bus Turner, a leader for 25 years in the efforts to contain growth at John Wayne Airport. Senator Marion Bergeson, who's had a long life of meaningful public service and a pioneering role for women in elective office. And Evelyn Hart, a major force behind the widely praised Oasis Senior Center. And as I met and spoke with the residents, they shared with me their concerns and what they found to be important about our city. First of all of the city, all of the services that they receive, and they want us to maintain those high levels of services, particularly in the areas of police and fire. It is paramount that people feel safe and secure in our community. Also operating our world-class library system, ensuring our roads are in good order, good working order in the operation of our senior center. They're very pleased that we balance our budget without any new taxes. They've also indicated their emphasis for the protection of our natural assets, our bay and beaches, our parks and open space, and that we continue to press for enforcement and extension of the settlement agreement for John Wayne Airport. During the years ahead, I certainly hope, and I hope that all of the council, that we are able to provide more vocal and moral support for the entrepreneurs whose small businesses are the backbone of our city's economy and who are hurting and struggling. They deserve our respect, encouragement, and patronage. I look forward to continuing to make Newport Beach a great place to live and work. And thank you, everyone, for so much support and just a really solid return to this office. So thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. All right, now it's time for the newbie.
Well, I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time because during the campaign I was required to communicate in 30-second bullets. So tonight I brought my 2-hour dissertation on the control of city government. The good news is I threw it away before I came in the door. But I would like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity to comment on becoming a part of this very impressive policymaking group for Newport Beach. I think it's appropriate that I began with thanking those individuals that played such a vital role in my campaign and my election. At the top of the list is my lovely wife, who for 31 years has put up with me, and for 248 days put up through the campaign with a constant flow of the public coming through our home. And I was very pleased to have Linda, our daughter Lindsay, and my son Bradley walking precincts with us. My eldest son Rusty helped edit all of that campaign material that we only twice were accused of being spammers on within the email system. And unfortunately, our young adults could not be with us today. Rusty and his wife, Dr. Allison Hill, reside in Boston. Brad and his wife, Meredith, reside in Brentwood, as does our daughter Lindsay. But Lindsay is in our family home tonight, recuperating from major foot surgery, which she had as of 6 o'clock this morning, where my wife and I were in L.A. with her. So I'm pleased that she at least could watch the proceedings. I'd like to give a special thanks to my advisory board members. They worked many hours and suffered through numerous meetings, aggressively debating amongst themselves the process and the message. My thanks to former mayors Jan DeBay, Denny O'Neill, and Todd Ridgway for their efforts, and to Homer Bludow for keeping me current on city procedures, and for Richard Lewis reminding me of the value of our business and financial districts, and the lovely Marion Bergeson that gave me constant support while the rest of the group seemed to enjoy beating me up, but all for the good of the cause, I think. My volunteer staff during the campaign was remarkable in balancing their real work life with almost full-time efforts on the campaign. Alan Lamone, my chief of staff and head scheduler. Roger Alford, who came out of retirement to become my campaign treasurer and complained the entire time through the campaign. Michelle Mullen, the event coordinator for our campaign, or I guess I should thank Mike for allowing us to have Michelle for that period of time. And Scott Olson, our sign and precinct coordinator. And then a special thanks goes to Don Webb for his constant wisdom and his endorsement. And I'm very proud of the 11 former mayors that I did have endorse my candidacy. And then most importantly, I'd like to thank the voters of Newport Beach that have placed their trust in me to carry on the tradition of excellence within our city. I am very honored to join the ranks of our City Council, made up of a group of dedicated, professional community leaders, individuals who willingly sacrifice their personal time to ensure and enhance the quality of life for those of us that live, work, and visit in Newport Beach. In my 35 years of residing in this city, I have never witnessed a council more productive or more professional. You've heard of others comment tonight about the staff. Clearly, we have one of the best.
It is not by accident that we love our police, and our firemen, and our Marine people, our refuse collectors, our municipal service team members, and our senior city staff. They are led by a quality city manager that is both wise and creative. And while I will help my city council members on any task that they would charge me with that they think that I might be able to add value, I will focus on three major issues over the next 4 years. And the first will be working to extend the John Wayne Airport Settlement Agreement, which expires in 2015. And my goal will be to bring together the Council Aviation Committee, the Airport Working Group, Airfare, our community, and our expanded coalition of local cities into one voice to seek the long extension of the 1985 agreement. My second focus will be lending a hand to fellow council members, staff, and employee associations in restructuring our employee benefit programs to achieve affordable, competitive, and sustainable employee compensation and retirement programs. And my third focus will be providing leadership to control the cost of the city's capital projects and encourage renewal of underserved areas in our city, such as West Newport Beach and Santa Ana Heights, as well as underperforming areas in our city, such as Mariners Mile and Lido's Village. I look forward to working with our city council members in support of projects in their districts and seeking support from them for projects in District 3. Now, being ready to work right now, I have a call of action this evening, which includes two requests of our council and staff to consider. The first is to request support in the formation, as soon as possible, of an ad hoc committee to accomplish the revisioning for Mariners Mile. I feel a sense of urgency in bringing together multiple property owners in this distinctive area along the bay to achieve a comprehensive plan for the economic revitalization of the mixed-use district that balances marine, restaurant, general commercial, office, and residential use with parking, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, and public access to the harbor. Funding will be required for consultants with expertise in planning, economics, and tenant mix. And for this, I will urge staff to identify funds as a high priority. As a less urgent issue, I would like council support in forming a short-term ad hoc committee to address the question of how, or if, local nonpartisan campaign rules and regulations can control the spiraling upward cost of funding our offices as we have witnessed in Newport Beach. It does not seem reasonable that one need raise over $100,000 to run for a local nonpartisan office. This is an issue raised by many during the campaign and for which I promised, if elected, I would explore. Committee members might well include representatives from local nonpartisan boards, such as our community college and school board trustees, as well as our own city council, community members, and the media. I will suggest an automatic sunsetting of this election reform ad hoc committee after a maximum of 6 meetings with a very focused agenda. It is truly a privilege to take a seat at the table with such professional individuals dedicated to protecting the quality of life in Newport Beach. I thank our voters for allowing me the privilege of this leadership, and I promise to work diligently to make the city of Newport Beach the best city in the nation to live, to work, and to visit. We have the foundation, we have the vision, and we have the opportunity. Contrary to what you've heard in many debates around our city and around our state, the sky is not falling in Newport Beach. In fact, the sun is rising. May God bless us all, our nation, our state, and our community, and all those that volunteer to put themselves in harm's way to protect the freedoms that we enjoy.
Thank you, Rush. Well, let's see, Steve and Ed, I don't know. Steve, would you care to say anything in rejoinder to Ed's seat selection this evening, or do you have other things?
In rejoinder? Hey, you know, I've got the coffee back here, the bathroom's back there. This is the best seat in the house, as far as I'm concerned. No, congratulations, Rush and Leslie and Nancy on your and Mike on your victories. I just want to get out of here, so I'll pass it along. Thank you all.
Ed, you care to say anything?
Well, I just want to say thank you to Keith Curry for a great year as mayor. I think he set an ambitious agenda at the beginning of the year and certainly provided a lot of leadership in getting us there. So, Keith, I appreciate all your hard work this year, and congratulations to all the people that got elected.
Very good. Well, it appears to me that we've completed our business agenda for the evening, and I therefore declare this meeting adjourned.